Long before yellow buses and traffic jams, Lagos once had electric trams gliding through its streets. True or false? Now, before you answer, listen to these 4 fascinating facts from Nigeria, one of Africa's giants, and see if you can tell which are true and which are made up.
AB10, the Tan Man Emerson.
Claim number 1. The British railways were built mainly to move goods to the ports, not to connect Nigerians. Claim number 2. Nigeria once had its own car brand, fully built in Kaduna in the 1970s. Claim number 3. Electric trams ran in Lagos in the early 1900s. Claim number 4. Kaduna once had Africa's largest textile industry. Hi, I'm Ebitan Egbuson, an African who likes to test your knowledge while boosting your knowledge. Claim number 1. The British railways were built mainly to move goods to ports and not to connect Nigerians. This one is true. When the colonial railways first appeared in Nigeria, many Nigerians assumed they would soon be able to comfortably move from town to town like Europeans did back in London or Paris. But the real purpose of those shiny iron tracks was not passenger comfort. It was profit. The British designed the railways to snake out resource-rich areas, tin in Jos, cocoa in the west, groundnuts in the north, and funnel them straight to the ports for export. Nigerians did use the trains, of course, but their main role was as laborers building them, or traders squeezed onto the edges of goods wagons. The lesson? Colonial infrastructure was rarely about building Nigeria for Nigerians. It was about extraction. Now, I'm sure there's nothing like that happening today. You know, a situation where a foreign power is establishing things in Africa, but with ulterior motives. Nah, that only happened in the past. Claim number 2. Nigeria once had its own car brand, fully built in Kaduna in the 1970s. This one is false, but close. In the late 1970s, Nigeria launched big automobile assembly plants, most famously Peugeot in Kaduna in 1975 and Volkswagen in Lagos in 1978. They produced thousands of vehicles that became household names, like the 504, the 505, and the Beetle. And they gave Nigerians a sense that local car production was possible. These cars were the ultimate symbols of middle-class living. In other words, if your dad drove one of those cars, your family had arrived. Anyway, the reality was that most of the parts still came from abroad. Nigeria had assembly, not a fully indigenous brand. The dream of a truly Nigerian-made car wouldn't be seriously attempted until decades later with ventures like Innoson. Claim number 3. Electric trams once ran in Lagos. This one is true. Now picture the Lagos waterfront in the early 1900s. White colonial officials in pith helmets, Yoruba market women balancing trays on their heads, and rattling between them slick little electric trams. These trams were part of an ambitious plan to modernize Lagos, modeled on European capitals. They ran for decades, carrying traders, workers, and officials along the narrow streets of the island. But in the end, the tram lines became too expensive to maintain, and the city shifted to buses and cars. Now, I'd love to stop and make a quip about Lagos traffic, but I won't, as it would just waste your time. Today, many Lagosians don't even know that their city once had trams. The lesson? Nigeria has had experiments with modern transport long before today's BRT lanes and metro projects. Claim number 4. Kaduna once had Africa's largest textile industry. This one is true. In the 1970s and 1980s, if you visited Kaduna, you'd hear the constant hum of machines. The city wasn't just a political capital of the north, it was an industrial giant. The textile factories there employed over 100,000 workers at their peak, producing enough fabric to rival Egypt's textile exports. Bales of brightly woven cloth left Kaduna for markets across West Africa. But by the 1990s, cheap imports, lack of power supply, and poor government policy killed the industry. Today, only fragments of those factories remain. The lesson? Nigeria once had a shot at leading Africa in industrialization, and understanding why we lost it is key to building it again. Alright, so how did you do with all four? Did any of these answers surprise you? If you got 3 or 4 right, nicely done. If not, don't worry. Every episode is a new chance to test what you know and, of course, rethink what you thought you knew. Be sure to like, subscribe, and drop your score below. Until next time.